The Headhunter is directed by Jordan Downey and stars Christopher Rye as the title character. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. And it follows this lone warrior who has lost his daughter to this creature. He's sort of a recluse monster hunter that spends most of his time in his shack preparing for his next mission. Now, this is a very minimalistic and simple indie movie. And it's not trying to be anything else. This is at its core a horror movie that takes place in a fantasy setting. And I was very, very interested in that. And because really the movie only has one character, the headhunter himself, you get to see a flashback of the daughter very, very briefly. But save for the individual that delivers his missions from far away, the headhunter is the only character in the movie, and the movie is about him. If you go into this movie expecting a fantasy setting in the same vein as Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or even Conan the Barbarian, where it's just grand and you see monsters and special effects, this is not that movie. The Headhunter is a very personal, gritty, and like I said, minimalistic movie where there's a lot of participation that's needed by the audience. You really have to pay attention to visual cues because there isn't a lot of dialogue, because this guy spends most of the movie by himself. So there's a lot of world building that is built through visuals and little clues that you see around his hut that give a clue as to what the world outside of him is like. You could easily see the world of Game of Thrones or Conan the Barbarian taking place outside of this guy's world, but he's separate from all that action and adventure and apart from society. This guy is definitely a loner. And one of the film's biggest strengths is its tone and its pacing. One of my favorite scenes is when he's sitting in his cabin and he hears these creatures talking outside, and you catch like little glimpses of what looks like goblins, but you really only see a little bit of their faces very, very briefly, and you hear them talking back and forth in some sort of language, and you kind of get the idea that they're either going to kill him or try to rob him. And of course this goes very, very poorly for the goblins, but you don't actually see the confrontation. You just hear it while it's happening as this wide shot on the cabin. And even after watching this on third viewing with commentary, I truly believe that if the directors and producers had more money, they would have stuck with this sort of style. They wouldn't have focused more on the monsters, because that's not what this movie is. This movie is a horror movie that is minimalistic and slow burn, and that's obviously not for everybody. This is for fans of I Trapped the Devil or Buried, or even if you like movies like Drive or Nightcrawler that focus a lot on one character, The Headhunter might be something you want to check out. I enjoyed it very, very much. The first viewing I wasn't really sure, because it depends so heavily on you paying attention to the visual cues, because a lot of the story is hardly ever explained. You're not going to know what the hell is going on if you spend even just a moment looking at your phone to answer a text. You're going to miss something very, very important. So it's important that when you watch this movie that you turn your phone off, or you're not occupied doing something else. This is a movie that you have to be very, very involved with. And upon the second and third viewing, I really appreciated the fact that this world felt real, despite the fact that it's an indie film and the budget is minuscule compared to stuff like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. But there's never a moment where you're like, that looks fake, that monster head doesn't look convincing, or there's a Starbucks cup that is accidentally put into frame. There's never moments like that. The director is very, very careful about what he shows, and the world feels very, very lived in, because this man is just this broken down individual. Rough, he's had it, he's on his way out, but he's got this one last mission to find the monster that killed his daughter. And being in the everyday life of a character that has to live like that is very, very compelling and very interesting. I think this is quite a unique movie. And really, I would actually absolutely recommend this to writers and directors, especially if you're wanting to do indie stuff. The Headhunter is a good movie to check out. So The Headhunter, have you seen it? What do you think of it? Comment below, let me know. What's your favorite slow burn movie? What's your favorite movie that focuses on one character or a small group of characters for most of the film? My personal favorite is John Carpenter's The Thing. Comment below, let me know. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to see more, click that subscribe button.